sometimes a picture isn't drawn. So the first thing you can do is make a triangle. It may or may not be to scale. Most likely it won't be. And then label things that you know. I personally like to have my angle in the bottom left because it's kind of similar to what we did in our activity to begin with. And then if I know a side, like I know D to E is 5, I'll label that as 5, and then obviously this becomes F. F to E, this is 8. And the first question they want us to answer is to show, is that the only triangle that could be possible? And it's kind of making us think the same way we thought at the beginning. Would it be possible to swing this 8 to the other side and make a second triangle? No. So we're going to write a little note off to the side here. And in trigonometry, it's called the ambiguous case. You might have two triangles, not for sure, but you might have two triangles when the side opposite the angle, in our case, what's the side opposite the angle? It's the 8. And what would have to be on the opposite side for two triangles to have to happen? It would have to be less than the 5, right? So you might have two triangles when the side opposite the angle is less than the adjacent side. If it's bigger, only one triangle is possible. And the way that works with the sine law is if you went to do your sine law and you used your cast rule and found both angles, one of them is not going to make sense because it's going to be bigger than 180. We'll do that in this situation. Notice I do have an angle on the opposite side. The only thing I could solve for first here would be angle F, because F goes with the 5. Can you see there's nothing you can do with E and its opposite side yet? Because we don't have enough information. So in order to solve a triangle, you need 3 pieces of information. I have an angle and 2 sides here. Of those 3 pieces of information, at least one of them has to be a side. Because if you have all 3 angles, you can make an equilateral triangle as big or as small as you want, and you'd never be able to find out the sides. So you need at least one side and 2 other pieces of information, and you can solve the whole triangle. But you can only use the sine law when you know an angle and its opposite side. So if I want to find angle F, I could write sine of angle F over 5, because the 5 is opposite the F, would have to equal sine of 80 over 8. And I can get sine of F by itself by multiplying both sides by 5. Type that into my calculator. 5 sine 80 divided by 8, 0.6155. And according to my cast rule, it could be in quadrant 1 or quadrant 2. And maybe it'll work, because if I had 91 degrees here, it could work as 2 triangles. But when we find our reference angle, by doing sine inverse of the positive value, so I find my reference angle, (38 degrees). Does it say to the nearest degree again? Yes. So when I find my reference angle as 38 degrees, Then angle F, well, obviously in quadrant 1 it'll also be 38 degrees. The other possibility would be 142 degrees. That was fancy. And of course, 142, if you put it in that triangle, the angles add up to too much. And we could have used the shortcut by saying, I noticed the angle opposite, the side opposite the angle wasn't shorter. So I knew that there was only going to be one possibility. But now, I could say this is 38 degrees, which makes that add up to 118. I can figure out that side will be 62. And if I wanted, well, and I do because the question says solve the triangle, we also need to find little e. Now I could do the sine law again. I can't use a squared plus b squared equals c squared, because that only works with 90-degree angle. I can't use SOHCAHTOA. But I could use my sine law again this time, and I'm going to do it over here so you can still see. This time I would put the e on the top over sine of 62 equals, and I would most likely use the ones that were given to me originally in the question. Multiply both sides by sine of 62. Eight times sine of 62 divided by sine of 80. 7.17. What is to the nearest tenth would be 7.2 centimeters. So when a question says solve a triangle, they want you to find every single angle and every single side possible. So, questions to circle for this one are 7, part I, 10, and 11.